if you believe me, if you let me take you on that journey of saying, hey, my staff are probably using AI, the first step I say to people is if you, or at a company, if you don't have an AI policy, get one because the risk is enormous. To be the most successful, you want to do your first deployment on a solution that is broad, meaning it covers as many people as possible, but not deep. A slight change, but everyone sees it and everyone says, wow, that's awesome. As opposed to something that is narrowly focused, but very profound in its solution, like, helps five people do everything.
Welcome to the Grow and Learn podcast, your go-to source for expertise and insights on a variety of topics: business growth, leadership, technology, personal and business finance, and more. We've curated a vast network of business experts ready to address your company's most pressing challenges. From corporate growth strategy to leadership, marketing strategy, sales strategy, branding, customer relations, technology, AI, IT security, and beyond, we connect you to the best experts for your needs. Reach out to us for more information or schedule a call at grownlearn.org to explore how we can support you. This is Irina Dimitrova. Welcome to the Grow and Learn show. Today, I'm welcoming back Micheal Hudlow. I talked to him a few months back, and now we have updates in the area of AI and CRM. This is his specialty. With his company, Bictia, he's actually consulting companies in implementation and rollout of CRM and AI and the combination of both. Welcome, Micheal.
Hey, thank you very much. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me back.
Good to have you back. Your book is out now. You were in the process of writing it when we last spoke, How Not to F Up Method.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about it, but before we begin, could you please give a short introduction about yourself for the people who haven't seen the first interview or haven't listened to it?
Sure. I've been my whole professional career, which is over 25 years now, has really been in the IT/business development sector. Most of my life, professional life, I've been working for either one of the big four firms, consulting firms, or a very large boutique firms, and my specialty was operating those large systems internally for those companies themselves, in addition to consulting on those systems when client matters needed as such. And the most recently, I've been largely focused on CRM systems, with the largest one of those being Salesforce. And then more recently, since the publication of my first book on CRM topics, which was in August of this year, as you alluded to, I started writing about the implementation or integration, I guess is the better way to say it, of artificial intelligence into CRM. So that book just came out on April the 1st, the AI book. It required a lot of research and a lot of conversations with individuals, and a lot of the individuals, I gained more knowledge about what they didn't know about AI than what they did know. And that was very enlightening, because that obviously drives a track to understand what is needed out there.
Mm-hmm. To give an understanding of people, managers that do not currently have a good overview of what an AI CRM system is, what are some solutions available out there? In what areas do they cover? What kind of solutions are these?
Well, interesting enough, CRMs, the big ones that you see, the really big systems that you hear about with commercials on TV and advertisements on Formula One races and whatnot, they're like the Salesforce or the Microsoft Dynamics, SAP CRM, Oracle CRM, Sugar CRM, HubSpot is another large one. Those are the real big players. But in reality, there's probably not probably there are more than 50 of them out there. A lot of them are niche. They might be a CRM tool for the real estate market or for the manufacturing market. And if you're not aware of what a CRM system is, I can make it pretty easy for people to understand. And I hopefully this is taken in the right light. If you don't have one of those formal systems that I just mentioned, you still have a CRM system, but that system is probably a spreadsheet, or it might be your email system itself. Really, all a CRM system does, and this is obviously greatly oversimplifying it, but this is what it does. It takes the people that you know and organize them in such a way so that you know better when to call them next or reach out to them next, or you think of LinkedIn or a tool like LinkedIn. It tells you who you're connected to and then also who those people are connected to. And really all a CRM system does is organize that all for you to make a better decision. So I humorously say to people, if you don't have one of those systems I just mentioned, you do have a system. It's just probably not great. Yeah, excuse me. It might have been working for you so far, but eventually it's not going to. Now, with AI, with the most recent book and the most recent topic that I discovered, really all AI is doing into that mix is simplifying some manual or clumsy process in your CRM process or CRM tool, and additionally helping you see information that might not be obvious to you. By gathering information, let's just say you wanted to you focused on airlines and they were your customer base. Well, if you had AI looking at airlines in the industry, it could be constantly cross-referencing what's happening in the industry compared to who and what you do, and then saying, hey, did you know maybe you should reach out to this person next week? The other thing people are using AI and CRM for is not only that identification that I just mentioned, but also structuring the communication. So writing the email for you, scripting out what a phone call should look like. And that's kind of where it's going right now.
I'm seeing an excerpt here of your book that specifically talks about these target areas of AI, and I'm just going to read them out because maybe it will give
Sure.
like a succinct clarity to people of what these might target. So we have here automated email, account insights, conversation support, which is what you just talked about, lead conversation optimization, sales opportunity prediction, lead scoring, customer retention strategy. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. And each one of those things, CRM by itself does some level of that. Obviously, just like everything else in the world that's turning into AI based, it just adds more horsepower to that effort. What I think, though, and this maybe sound a little bit counterintuitive to the reason I wrote the book, but if you remember, I just had said just a bit ago that a lot of people still don't get it, or believe it or not, I mean, a lot of people are still scared of AI, or kind of like, what's going to happen next, which is valid. But what I say to many of my clients, the leadership, or any level of leadership, it is not uncommon for me to hear from them that they say, well, we haven't adopted AI yet. We're not using it yet. We're going to get around to that next quarter or next year or whatever the case may be. And what I say to them is, you as a company may not have officially adopted AI, but you are mistaken if you think your employees are not using AI. And that is just, it's unfortunately, it's a fact. It just is. I mean, I can say that definitively to be a fact, that it is just too tempting for employees to supplement their work product with an AI type solution, not to use it. And as a result of that, I always, mention that if you believe me, if you let me take you on that journey of saying, hey, my staff are probably using AI, the first step I say to people is, if you, or at a company, if you don't have an AI policy, get one, because the risk is enormous. Just an AI policy of use, of acceptable use at your firm. And you may say, hey, look, as of this time, we don't use AI, or maybe we say at this time use AI, but make sure you tell your supervisor about it so they can review appropriately. But you need to do something. And the reason for that is risk. AI is fantastic at gathering information, from the internet world. Fantastic. We all know that. But where it's pulling from might not be accurate, or it might not even be legal to know that information, or maybe breaching privacy law, and you can't have that obviously in your final work product. And so that's one side of the risk coin. But the bigger, not bigger, at least as big risk that companies have is that AI, if you get let's just say, I'm just going to make up a scenario. You have a request for proposal coming in, and your team working on that proposal goes out to the internet and said, hey, they're asking these 5 questions. Give me the best 5 answers for these questions. Well, what is also possible, and I'm sure many people know this, is that you can also at the same time say, look, this is our perfect pitch deck. This is what it looks like. And these are our way of answering these questions in the past. And then they upload those to that that AI engine. And then AI engine combines all that and gives you that information back. Well, what you've just done is given your company intellectual property out to the internet. And now AI has that to make future decisions for someone else. And, if you don't have a policy that says something like you may use AI, but you cannot do, this or this, then you're really risking yourself. You're risking your own intellectual property, and you're also risking the use of bad information or the use of someone else's intellectual property.
Gosh, this is something really that I bet most companies haven't thought about.
Right.
Yeah. Wow.
Right.
This is significant. Yeah. So is this also a part of your included in your book?
Yes.
How not to
Yes.
F up method?
Yep. Yep. I don't look. I mean, I would say I can certainly help someone with the wording in that. Obviously, you need to have your own internal counsel or an attorney look at it.
Yeah.
But a relatively simple policy will go a long way to protect you. And look, it's going to have some teeth in it. It's going to have to say, if an employee does this, then you have to lay out whatever the ramifications are.
Mm-hmm.
But in the absence of doing it, you're basically allowing it by not doing anything.
So my assumption here is that the how not to F up method starts from the beginning of the implementation, before a company decides to implement the system at all.
I don't. Neither of my books I do chronologically.
Okay.
And here's my own theory, and then I am also working on professional speaking and workshops based upon this methodology that I have proposed in my books, and then I'm making more concrete, every day. My thought process was this: yes, I am a consultant, but if you buy and consultants, consultants, when you hire them, if they're a good consultant, they ask you questions, they listen, and they develop the best answer for you. And if you remember, even from our first conversation some months ago, I had said that, I can't give someone the 10 best things to do for your company because I don't know your company. And that would be so pompous and presumptuous of me to give you answers to a problem I don't know. So I took a completely different tact with my methodology and my books. It's, I don't know what works at your firm, but I will tell you what doesn't work. I can do that. Like, so for example, if you don't have a policy, you're in a bad place. You know, if you don't manage expectations, you're in a bad place. And so that's really where I'm going with all this. So any one of these pieces, I mean, so my first book was over 500 pages. This book just hits 200 pages, and that was done intentionally because I wanted to make both books. It's not something you read from cover to cover. You know, you just don't go through and it tells you a story, or to your point, you don't go from deployment or implementation all the way through operations. It is much more about anything is applicable at any point. So, for example, I keep hitting my microphone. I'm sorry about that. So, you know, I'll give you an example. You know, one of the things that people mess up is, and I just said it, is not managing expectations of the user. That can happen pre-deployment. That can happen when the system's fully operational. I mean, it can happen anywhere, but it's an extremely valid point. And so there are groups of people, and I'm sure you've seen these people or talk to these people in your own personal life, and you say to them, you know, you mention AI, or AI comes up in a conversation. Some people think AI is, you know, a marvelous wizard that's going to help you do everything in life. Some people think it's the robot from the Terminator that's going to wipe out humanity, right? And there are just so many. The scope of what people think is just all over the place. So how can you possibly have a successful system if you don't manage expectations and continually to do so? So that's just an example. But so there's lots of things like that that I bring up here that is it's relevant, I think, at almost all the stages.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I do though, to your point though, I do have in the book, you know, kind of like I think it's the very first section. Pardon me, I don't remember exactly, but I think it's the first section that just says, what are the first steps? What do you need to do right now? And so that is chronological, but then after that, it kind of goes in a couple different directions.
Mm-hmm. So what are the first steps then? What are the first steps to be done, even if they're not chronological? Once you step into a company, what do you look at now with the new insight?
So from a thought process of not knowing why you want AI, but you know you need AI, and that's where a lot of people are right now. It's kind of like, I have to have AI. Everyone else has AI. So the first thing I say to people our companies are, where are you bleeding money? Meaning, do not deploy this tool if it is not to increase making money or whatever your ultimate goal is. But my guess your ultimate goal is making money. Of course, it could be something else, but ultimately, where are you bleeding money, right? What, and I'm looking over here, just make sure I get it. You know, what process, what tool, what thing do you already have that is flawed? Focus on that. It needs to, you know, maximize ROI, and it needs to fix something that's broken. It can't be a bolt-on widget that says, hey, look at this shiny new tool. It has to do something, right? The next thing is you have to dive deep into your current processes and workflows and find out, to once again, to support those other two things, where are things broken? And I will say this out loud on the top of a roof: your processes are absolutely broken. Everyone's are. Mine were broken. They you know, it's very rare that a company has something that is working exactly like they want, you know. And so just get past the, I'm going to say, the ego of, wow, my processes are perfect because I made them 10 years ago. You know, it's just not reality, and that's okay. Just get past that. So you know, where is it going to make you money, and where are things broken? And you find out where things are broken by doing a very deep dive on your processes, whether they're manual or already embedded into a CRM system. It really doesn't matter. The next thing is that once you have all those three things done, you to be the most successful, you want to do your first deployment on a solution that is broad, meaning it covers as many people as possible, but not deep. A slight change, but everyone sees it and everyone says, wow, that's awesome. As opposed to something that is narrowly focused, but very profound in its solution, like, helps five people do everything, because you won't be able to leverage that at all for a new win, because people, once again, don't understand, don't believe, don't want to believe what these tools can do. And that goes for both AI and CRM. So I definitely say stay broad, but not deep with a solution.
What would
And
this
that,
be? What's an example of such solution? Would it be something with communication? Really, I would suppose.
sure, it could
Email.
be. So, there's many tools out there that can help people in CRM. For example, write a reply to an email that comes in, right?
Mhm.
There's many things that can just say, hey, you received this email from, William yesterday. William wrote this. I think the best answer is this. Use it or not. That's something that very easy in the world now to do. I mean, in the AI world, it is very simple to do. It would impact everybody. And it really doesn't change anything. Like, people can still use the regular email if they want. They can still text if they want. But they also have a little bit of a free starter. That's easy. Or even, hey, you haven't reached out to these five people in the last 3 months. Do it. Once again, easy. Everyone would see it. So things like that. The more complex things are when you really start to get into forecasting and, really looking into the news world and making very deep decisions about, strategically where you can go. Let that come later. And then you can go deep with solutions after you have everyone understanding how much AI can help you out. And there's one other thing that AI can do, which is a little more complex, and it's not high visibility, but I do recommend people to use AI in cleaning up their data for the consumption of AI. Bad information will wreak havoc on AI, and you really need to look at that. And then the last thing I mentioned to individuals when they're getting started is assess your internal capabilities for technical solutions. Do is anything you're going to do, are you going to be able to handle it in yourself in development and operations, or do you're going to have to go outside? Because that obviously impacts the cost, and then obviously impacts what numbers you have to hit to maximize the ROI.
Mhm.
And that's the starting point. And I know that sounds like, sometimes that sounds like any other project, but in reality, um, AI projects can actually move very quickly just because of the strength and the number of AI tools are out there. I mean, they're in the thousands now of little,
Yeah.
AI widgets that are out there. So,
That's what I wanted to ask you, actually. There are so many tools out there, but what is the adoption rate? Like, for example, when you talk about using it for forecasting, for budgeting,
yeah,
for research, have companies actually implemented these, or are they just trying it out of curiosity? What is your experience with that?
both. Um, I think if you're going to go down, once again, my opinion, and I have to admit, AI, even though AI has been around, everyone, says, well, it's not really that new. It's been around, 15 years, 20 years, or whatever. The reality is, for the large group of people in the world, AI is, whatever it is, 18 months old, ever, when Chat GPT kind of blew up in the world.
Mhm.
So AI is, there are, it reminds me very much of the 90s with the IPO and the Silicon Valley boom, where there was just a million companies making a million things. I know many people that are making AI tools, that have started companies making AI tools, extremely smart people. it's very difficult. The competition is just huge, and getting any traction. How do you explain it all based upon all the things I just said earlier? How can an AI company, and I don't envy them at all, how can an AI company that has maybe a fantastic tool, how do they translate the worth of that tool to a prospective company when there's the competitions out there that there is? And the biggest competition, and actually the one, if I was really going to get eyeball deep in forecasting and all that, the biggest competition are the CRM companies themselves. I mean, Salesforce has, their own, Einstein, and Dynamics has AI, and HubSpot has AI. They all have their own AIs, usually priced more than the third party AI tools. But it's kind of, those big engines or those big CRM tools are expensive already, and many companies have already spent all the money that they have allocated on CRM on getting one of those tools. So adding those it's like Salesforce AI into the mix just might be too expensive for them. But so when you say how many are out there doing like forecasting, it's with using AI. Using CRMs to do forecasting, that's been around for years, and lots of people are doing that. Bolting in the AI space, it's very new. It's very new. It's more of an exception right now. But for all I know, as we're speaking, someone's doing it. It's just happening so quickly.
Yeah, I mean, from what I understand, the development and the diversity of solutions is out there, but the adoption is slow compared to what's available.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
The adoption, look, seriously, for the adoption for the most part for AI is happening at the individual employee basis much more than it is at the corporate basis. That's going to change. That's going to change. But I don't know if I don't think employees are ever going to stop using AI unless it gets their own AI to do their own work, unless something magical happens, and it might happen. It may take some, just like with GDPR in Europe with privacy back in 2018, it might take a couple big mess ups before corporations start taking it more seriously.
Yeah. So I suppose the big names which you just mentioned that are anyhow in CRM, Salesforce, and the
Microsoft, HubSpot, yeah,
whoever, yeah, exactly. All of these that are anyhow introducing their AI solutions. So whoever has bought is already using Salesforce and Microsoft and whatever CRM solutions they're out there, they would just add on or receive the additional AI solution.
They have to pay for it, but yes, it's there.
Yeah. It's there. They're not gonna change provider, change a solution just because they need to pay a little bit on top, right?
Yeah, I mean, the good news is the AI tools that I've seen made by third party vendors that work inside of, let's just say, the Salesforce space, for the most part, they are seamless. They are inside of Salesforce. You wouldn't, it looks, as a user, as a developer, you might see the difference, but as a user, you wouldn't even see the difference. It does create, look, it creates an operational problem though. These companies, once again, I'll use, HubSpot as well, but Salesforce, when you play and confine yourself to their sandbox and their tool sets, upgrades just happen, 3 times a year, 2 times a year. You don't have to worry about it. Obviously, if you start getting bolt-on tools, you need to pay attention to those things.
Mm-hmm. If you were to look from the perspective of the other side, if you were to consult companies developing AI solutions, would you say that their way into the market is through these large platforms like Salesforce and HubSpot?
Yeah, I do. I do. There are boutique CRM tools that are starting to create their tools from the very beginning with AI already built into it. But once again, these are very niche tools. I mean, for a very, very specific market? I guess I'm going to go one step farther. It was a very good question, and it deserves more thought than I'm going to give it right now. But here's my first reaction: the CRM, the people who are going to use an AI tool inside of a large AI tool within a large CRM system
Mm-hmm.
are still able to find an AI engine that is extremely niche. So you may be using the full force of Salesforce or Dynamics, but your AI engine that you've purchased from a third party vendor might be for the management of bowling alleys. I mean, I don't know, but so you could have a hyper specific AI engine within a generic CRM system, and that's a combination that works as well. It really depends upon, I think as any one of those systems becomes larger in the corporate space, the amount of system administrators that companies have on premise grows. So if you have an AI engine built by, any one of those large players, and you already have a workforce that understands how those engines work or how those CRM systems work, then it makes the idea of buying one of them, an AI engine from one of those companies, even more attractive because your team can support it. But the third party AI vendors are doing their best to make those tools so easy to use that they're aware of that issue. Um, the other thing, the advantage to using the big AI engines is the fact that your information, you understand the security behind the protection of your information. So if you go back to what I was saying before, maybe you're going to release a policy that says you can only use AI within the CRM environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you type in, I need to answer this RFP using the firm's intellectual property, well, that AI engine is staying in the safety net of your firm's security platform, which makes it infinitely secure and less likely. I'm not saying those AI third-party vendor AI engines are flawed,
Mm.
but from a purchaser's standpoint, it's easy to get a CEO to say, you know what, I already know this big company is protecting our information. Why risk it? Even if it's not even a real statement to make, it is a true statement to make from the angle of convincing the non-technical leader to understand a technical bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the last few days, I've been reading a bit more about security and all the dangers within a
Yeah,
corporate environment, actually, for the employees. So I can totally see how this can pose a huge threat because, yeah, because of what you mentioned at the beginning, exposing internal information. This is
right.
one, unless you have it
And
in.
I'll give your listeners something to think about here. Um, if you're still wondering, like if your firm has not officially adopted AI, and if you're wondering if your employees are using AI, maybe you're wondering if I'm making that story up or not. I know no one is necessarily thinking that, but here's something to think about. Is there any one of your employees that in the past 6 months, 6 months ago, let's just say they used to be an average performer and now are producing beautiful work faster than ever, meeting every deadline, those kind of things. And if there's no explainable reason for why that has happened, then you have to consider the fact that those people are most likely using some type of supplemental AI tool to help them do their job. And it just more proving what I was saying before, or solidifying what I was saying before, that AI is out there being used by people all the time. Now, that might not necessarily be a bad thing. I mean, depending on what your industry is, depending on how they're using it. But my point being is it is being used. It is. Especially it's kind of like the younger you go in the generations, the more and more likely they are to be, using it already.
Yeah. Is there any case under which it would be justifiable for a company to develop their own solution rather than obtain it from the outside?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, tools such as ChatGPT, uh, they have a very big library of third party, companies who have used their core and then twisted it, or whatever the right word is, into those niches that I was talking about before. So once again, one of those steps I said, when you're starting out, analyze what you have on staff. You may find out they're not overly complicated to create and customize. So you may find out the thing that you need is not out there. If you have a very unique process that is broken, but it's very unique, you may find out that, yeah, it's easier for you to build your own AI widget. And that's okay. That's totally cool, actually.
Hmm. Is there a
Where
big
it's definitely a time. It is changing so quickly that it is very hard, you know, to stay knowledgeable about it.
yeah, or at least the availability of solutions is there, but the adoption is not really changing that fast.
Right.
Yeah.
That's true too.
Yeah. So is there a big F up that we haven't talked about today?
I think I covered the big boys. I let me just see here. I think we already covered. I mean, I'm looking at some of the bullet points from my book. Yeah, misuse is evasive, and the risks are enormous. I mean, they are. I mean, it is, and going. I'll take that one step further. Bad data coupled in with misuse um, can be extremely, if nothing else, embarrassing. Okay, so if you are a marketing department, the good news is AI gives you an excuse to clean up all of the decks and the promotional materials that you've ever used, because it gives you the reason of, do you really want the 10 versions of a deck when you could really only want the best one? There's an opportunity here for companies to clean up their intellectual property, their records, for lack of a better term, because this is also a misconception about the uninitiated have about artificial intelligence. The misconception is that artificial intelligence is actually intelligence. It's not. Okay, it's not. What it does what all computers do very quickly. Just when the hand calculator came out, everyone was amazed. You can jam two big numbers and hit multiply and get an answer. And wow, was that amazing. Okay, that's exactly what AI is doing. Instead of using numbers, it's looking at information and spitting out an answer based upon that information. But if it's looking at bad information, it doesn't know it's giving you a bad answer, but it will give you the bad answer because the information itself is flawed.
Mm.
When you use tools like Chat GPT that are looking across the vast internet for solutions, it's using good information and a sprinkling of bad information, because hopefully most of the information is somewhat right. But if you look internally at information, it can be wrong. And the easiest, and I think the example that hits home for most companies is this. If you deploy AI intelligence into your recruiting process, and you want a recruiting process that is very open to dynamic hiring and make sure you're not being sexist or racist or whatever ist. Well, if you tell it to look back over the last 100 years or whatever it is of your company's hiring, well, I guarantee you what your company was doing 20 years ago is not what you want your companies to be doing today and going forward. It will, but if you don't go through all those things, then AI is going to come back and make bad decisions, and it will promote. It could very easily promote those things that you want blocked, and to that point, if you have it looking at all of your intellectual property as opposed to just the things you want people to know about, well, it's going to start making assumptions about you that you haven't even made about yourself. So it's not necessarily hard, but it takes a whole new way of looking at things, because the second you turn AI on, it's scanning everything, and that can be beautiful or it can be scary.
Mm-hmm. At which part of the process do you step in? From the very beginning?
Myself,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. As a consultant.
well, with CRMs in general, um, believe it or not, my biggest market has been people that have deployed CRM 2 or 3 years ago and are not happy. It's not meeting their needs. It was too expensive. They expected more. And then for me to come in with an unbiased eye, because sometimes these things go wrong because someone led it down a path that best suited their own professional skill set, and basically coming in and giving an unbiased eye at looking at why you are where you are and how to get you back on track. Okay, that's probably the majority. Now with AI, that story's still being written. There are I'm probably working with as many companies that need AI as companies that have an AI tool that they're making and helping, and they want help putting it into people who need it. So I don't know where it's going to play out, quite frankly. I think it's quite interesting. Now, the good news is with the companies that have already have CRM for 2 or 3 years, it's much easier for them to put AI in because they know, or they think they know, I guess it's maybe a better way to say it, of what is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just very simple process change or responsibility, or maybe it's a human issue. um, but now with the advent of AI, it's also making it much easier to say, you know what, those 5 steps, and we, this can be done by simply putting this tool into play, and it starts happening. Research of your own intellectual property, for example, is a big thing, or just creating. If someone wants to say, hey, I want to keep abreast of these 5 markets, compare these 5 markets to the players that we have already done work for in the past 10 years, and make sure I get updates on all of them. AI can do that kind of stuff very easily.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see where it goes. I am fully prepared to help anybody with any of those needs, but which one starts to become the more routine thing, the industry, it's just too young at this point.
Yeah. And you having worked at big fours before,
Mm-hmm.
and now
Yes.
working on your own, do you see any significant difference in terms of agility, or in terms of uh, what you're able to deliver for your clients as a standalone person, or as a part of a large
Yeah.
organization?
Well, I think the biggest difference for myself, and I guess obviously that's for my clients, is they are getting me. If you hear me on one of these podcasts, that's the same you're not talking to a managing director and then getting the next available director to
Right.
handle your project. And I think for myself, it allows me to be extremely nimble, and listen a lot more. And obviously I'm cheaper than hiring a team of people, and what I do does not require a team of people. It just doesn't. Most of what I do is it leverages 20 some years of experience in doing it, and the ability to listen to people and not make a presumption that I already know what the problem is before I'm even at your client site. And then the merger of that, quite frankly, is a report card at the end of a couple of weeks that says this is what's wrong. And sometimes, usually, people are very like, wow, that's enlightening. you know um Sometimes people don't like the answer because it's kind of like it hits home or it's personal to them. But that's the beauty of fulfilling my role. Is one, I don't like to, or allow that to happen, because it's not a personal matter. All this is about is improving, and that's that. It's that simple. I'm not looking for to sell you the next consulting widget. I'm there to give you the thing that you hired me to do, and then you use your own internal people or hire somebody else. That's all okay.
Fantastic. Michael, thank you so much. It was
Thank
very,
you.
very informative again. Your website is bitxia.com.
And I'll send you an email. You can put it, but yeah, it's bitxiacrm.com.
Fantastic. What other ways do people have to find you?
Probably the best way is LinkedIn. Under my own name, you'll find me. LinkedIn, email, which is just mhudlow, MHUDLOW @bitxiacrm.com. But obviously you reach out, ping me on LinkedIn. I guarantee you I get back to everybody as immediate as possible, certainly within the day. And I would also say is I am not a hard sell person. I love networking with people, even such as yourself. I'm happy just to talk. I'm happy to do work with everybody. Everything's cool. So I appreciate your time very much. Thank you for your show, and keep up the great work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you too. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Grow and Learn. We hope that you found our podcast informative, engaging, and inspiring. Our mission is to help you keep growing and learning, and we hope that our conversations and insights have provided you with practical advice and useful perspectives. If you're looking for personalized support and guidance to help you achieve your personal or professional growth objectives, I offer a range of services to help. As a trusted management partner and mentor, I work with businesses in the process of transformation, looking for new streams of business, as well as M&A. With an extensive professional network of experts and mentors, I can bring on board the right person or team based on the specific needs of the company I'm working with. To learn more about the services I offer and how I can help you achieve your goals, visit my website at grownlearn.org. You can also reach out to me via email or social media. I'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed this episode of Grow and Learn, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback is important to us, and it helps us to continue to create content that is relevant and valuable to our listeners. Thanks again for listening, and we look forward to sharing more insights and perspectives with you in the future.